Hello, and welcome to Critical ReRoll, the podcast by the critters for the critters. This is episode 96, covering episode 20 of Critical Role. My name is Matt, and I recently learned how to make mozzarella sticks, and I'm really proud of it.
My name is Ben, and I'm a new host on the show.
My name is Herky, and I'm an old host on the show.
All right, so kind of continuing on with the new format that we started last week. Quick recap of this episode. They are traveling. They stopped traveling, and now they're in Barrowbend. But what did they do along the way? The start of the episode was pretty good with them testing the limits of Not's new does she have a name for it yet?
Chat's saying that
like,
audio's very low. Matt.
Audio's really low?
Yeah.
Audio should not be low.
Nice.
Everyone's frozen. Excellent.
Yeah, also that.
Why would this happen live, you know?
I was watching a little bit last week, and it was bugging out a little bit, but the audio was fine, so
I'm going to wait for confirmation. I'm going to move around.
We're good.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So they are traveling to Barrowbend from Zadash. It's Barrowbend, right? Am I getting that right?
I think it's Barrowbend, but
Barrowbend?
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even
Mercer.
try.
You and I should really check for hand on these things, but that requires professionalism. Like, what?
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they test out the limits of Not's Flask of Endless Courage, is what I'm calling it.
That's a good name.
Super drunk, and
everybody takes a sip of it.
And then they force vomiting on somebody. Yeah, the hyphen Ben means swamp in Mercer-esque. Ooh, in Merceries, is that still Bend was a swamp too? Nice. Call Uncle Ook.
Very true.
But yeah, while they're traveling, they come. Oh, go ahead.
I'm a swamp.
Yeah. Oh, you're a swamp. Yeah, we just added swamp to our podcast as well.
I am swamp. Sorry.
But the first day of travel, they notice a large, darkness covering the land, and this whole campaign has been darkness in the sky, and that means the bad guys are coming. But this time it was just a legion of hundreds of soldiers who were on their way to war. And their initial reaction was to immediately hide, as though they were guilty of something.
Yeah, that confused the hell out of me. I know that they normally don't really like authority, but lately they've been kind of moseying up to them a little bit and just being like, yo, we're the Mighty Nein. We do some stuff. But yeah, I was very confused as to why they were so afraid of this marching army. They didn't do anything wrong. They're clearly not criminals or anything. I don't know why they were so afraid of them and tried
unknown everywhere else. Why would they be?
I feel like that could be a reaction from seeing just an army in general, because they saw a big one outside of Zadash, like a really big one. This one didn't turn out to be quite as big, or nearly as big, but just seeing a lot of army personnel in one place when you're on a mission for a crime underlord of the city, that could be right there a reaction to be like, oh, this isn't good, hide, even though there's nothing outwardly saying we're on an expedition to help the crime underlord of Zadash. So that could be it.
It was funny though. They're like, "What's our story? What's our story?" And you have a story. You're traveling to this other place.
Yeah, and there's nothing inherently illegal by what they were doing anyway, and it doesn't really matter who sent them on that quest.
Except for impersonating a Crown's Guard. If someone, I don't know, transforms themselves to look like a Crown's Guard.
Yeah, that was worse.
Yeah. And they start take the dodecahedron or take the big lockbox off of the cart and go hide it. You guys are not under suspicion yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Herky is much louder than Ben and Matt.
I'm sorry.
Damn it,
sometimes I get real excited.
Yeah, it's your exuberant personality right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything you bring to the table. crank up Matt and the swamp. Okay.
Thanks, Jess.
So am I cranking down? I'm gonna have to remember where this is and edit this fun period out. Thank you for the extra work, everyone, but we're gonna get good at this.
Whatever.
Okay. Testing 1, 2. This is Matt.
Hi, Ben.
And I'm the loud one.
Oh, sorry, I'm the swamp.
The swamp.
Get out of me, swamp.
Eventually, I will have
so
things set up for us to be not like this.
Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, they try to like zoom past the Legion because they don't want to like get caught or get in their way or whatever for
Or
whatever
wait.
reason.
They mostly just didn't want to wait for them to pass because they thought it was bigger than it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, when you're
Maybe.
described like there's a shadow on the ground, and I like the irony in her thinking it was a cloud, and then going to everyone. Does anybody know anything about clouds? And like last session, you were Queen of the Clouds.
Yeah.
Literally the voice of the Tempest.
So they tried to go by real fast, and Matt has Molly roll like an animal handling check to see if he can handle the cart going super fast, like faster than normal. And I was so annoyed at this because there's something in the D&D book and in the rules that specifically cater to this and is never used in any campaign ever, and that's vehicle proficiency, which a couple backgrounds get, and he absolutely should have had him roll a vehicle proficiency check, which Mollymock is not proficient in. However, he failed miserably, and that's my little rant about vehicle proficiency. They need to be used more often. Come on, guys.
Yeah, that and mounted combat. They have like 5 horses. Is that right?
Mounted combat is great. The players in my game all have a mount, and I'll use them in combat. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a paladin who uses one too, of course. It's great.
So what complications do you think they should have run into without any sort of vehicle proficiencies? Or is that just it? Like that check?
That was pretty much it.
gone
Just that check
completely
should have
different?
been, yeah. I don't know if it would have been different. It would have just been a D20 plus proficiency or not. And he rolled shittily, so it didn't necessarily matter. It's just that vehicle proficiency is a thing that needs to be used more in the game. I think it's just not used that often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However,
I'm kind of with what Jess said in the chat. Like, I never even thought about like vehicle proficiencies. Sure, you have like the carts and whatnot, but more often than nothing, you have people just riding horses or walking, so it's just not as used.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
really not.
Also, yeah, that's.
But
maybe he and us can shine a light on the other fun facets of Dungeons and Dragons, like vehicle proficiencies, on like how well you can control a horse and a cart.
yeah. So that kind of fucks up the cart, and then they're stopped by the Legion, and like they're just straight up nice dudes. That's what you expect the army to be, like, there to protect the citizens and try to help you.
You got Captain.
And I bet they felt like real assholes when they were like, let's stay away from these guys, and oh, they helped us for free.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're the righteous brand, which, as they know from talking to them and the other place, that they want to be seen as heroes.
Mhm.
And like they're supposed to raise morale where they go and everything, and so like it makes sense that they're gonna help them out.
They want to spread the good word of the government. Like, they want to seem like they're, whether their morals are correct or not, they want people to have a good vision of them because it gives more power to those who already have it. So, contrary to a lot of what has been seen before, the like the righteous brand helped them super easily, and it kind of can give a mixed view about everything, which I think is something that Matt probably wanted, is to kind of throw in a different perspective on the righteous brand that they haven't really seen too much of.
And
yeah, and I
maybe
mean,
also,
like, that's the goal in a perfect society, is they are essentially the policemen. They're there to do good for the citizens as well as fight crime and whatnot. So I mean, they're just doing their jobs by doing that, really.
Or do you like what Rowan's saying in the chat? Like this could be like a TV show where you're giving names to these otherwise faceless people just so they can show up later dead. It's the whole thing where like I don't know if everybody's seen Community, but I think it's the first episode of Community. He describes like how you attach feelings to things the second you find out its name. So like to show this in the show, he like names a pencil something and like immediately breaks it and everyone gasps. So it's like, is this what Matt's doing? He's just showing us these people that he's gonna kill off screen later.
To be fair, I believe that the name was asked. He didn't give their name originally, and Matt gives a name to every NPC that approaches the party. Sometimes they are just pulled out of his ass when they ask what the name is, but everyone has a name.
Whether he is ready or not,
Yeah.
they will get a name.
Yeah, and he had this one ready because he gave him like a name and where he hails from.
Yeah.
Which of course was immediately messed up. I don't even know what his real name was. It's like Maximilian or Maximus.
I believe it's Maximilian, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's Max.
I don't remember where he's from, but it has load in the name, and that tickled everyone else.
Yeah.
I forgot to do at the beginning of us telling the little points that we wanted to talk about, so we're just gonna revert back and kind of go through this, how we used to do it.
That works.
While they're on their travel and like they kind of are talking more to each other, Bo does what I think is interesting is she finally like asks Ford if he's been having weird dreams still, and he straight up I can't, he's like borderline lies, or he's like, no, I haven't, but he has. But then they specifically asked if he's coughed up soft water in a while, and he hasn't. Last time it was a little bit of blood.
I think from when I watched a Talks Machina with Travis on it, Ford is actually kind of embarrassed about the whole coughing up saltwater thing in the dreams. He doesn't want to be seen as somebody that doesn't know what he's doing necessarily, and that can be to some people a sign of weakness, especially since he's a half orc. But then also he kind of had a nervous cough, and when he was answering those questions, like he kept being doing, Travis kept doing a cough sort of thing, which to me was almost like a tell. But
maybe. I mean, he's not. He hasn't been dishonest to the rest of the party about anything, from what we know. He just doesn't really know what's going on. But yeah, it seems like his interaction with his patron and his dreams and stuff have been pretty limited. So there just really hasn't been much. And yeah, he might be a little ashamed of what's going on, but he's been pretty truthful to everybody about it.
Especially since we still don't really know the full timeline of when he made the pact, because it was super recent. We just don't know when, and then like why the pact was made.
Yeah.
There's all like the he was a sailor and he died at sea and he was brought back for some unknown reason, found a sword, theories and things like that. But I can see what you're saying. He just doesn't want to seem weak.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the cough was about lying. I think the cough was talking about something that made him uncomfortable.
Oh, interesting.
So,
and on their travels, a storm starts to roll in, and obviously it was now in retrospect why, but Yasha gets a vision from the Storm Lord, unless I'm skipping past anything that y'all wanted to discuss.
traveling without tents is hard, and traveling without any kind of spell to give shelter is also hard. So I think that they're realizing that now, and Caleb's going to probably attempt to get something. If he ever Liamon's tiny hut, but overall, rain sucks. So
yeah, and like Matt gave them plenty of hints. Like any NPC they talked moving north was like, it gets colder the further you go up north, and they had plenty of time to buy things. They got like potions and paper and stuff, but never thought about getting tents or warm clothes. It's gonna be interesting to see if Matt like starts introducing those exhaustion points in the morning for not getting a full night's rest, or like a decent night's rest. Rest. Cannot speak.
Words are hard.
Yeah, but Yasha gets a vision from the Storm Lord again and has her little one-on-one with Matt. which was pretty interesting, but I didn't really get anything from it.
Same.
Like I like the words that were used. Like you see memories, but for you, memories aren't good. So we know that Yasha did something bad or had like a bad growing up. At the beginning of the memory, everyone that she sees from her town is looking away from her and towards this broken statue. But she fights her way through. And she sees the shape, and that says, "You know who that is." And then everything goes dark for a while. And then she gets purple blue lightning outlining her arms. And then she sees bodies, and that lightning is now blood on her hands. We don't know whose these bodies are, if it's the same people that she had previously saw in the vision. That was my assumption. I don't know. So what did you guys glean from her vision of the Storm Lord and what he says at the end, which I can say in a second because I got it written down.
I thought the entire thing was interesting, but it was hard to follow because everything happened really fast. Like just in general with the way that Matt presented it, and I usually like his one-on-ones. This is the first one that I've gotten that wasn't. I was like, and that's fine, but it was hard for me to really get into. I like that we got some Yasha backstory and like a little bit of Yasha backstory, but
like
we didn't
hardly
really
any
get
actual-
too much
Yeah.
out of it
It's
other than
more fun,
aesthetics.
and I think Herky, you were saying it beforehand, where they get to actually interact with.
Yeah,
whoever the
that's
one
my problem with it. It was hard for me to focus on what was going on and follow everything because it's just long exposition from Matt. There's not really any interaction with Ashley, and it was similar to Caleb's one previously, where like something like Bo's the first one was really engaging because she was going back and forth with them and doing stuff, and you were learning things. Whereas some of the other ones, this one included, it's really just Matt kind of talking for a little bit, and especially since the rest of the players are off the table, you really just have nothing else to look at or focus on, and I don't know, it gets a little bit dry, and it's hard to follow, and not my favorite thing.
Yeah, and it kind of contrasts even with like Bo's was super interactive. I like it when Ford has his interactions with his patron, because at least he has some choice, like some words to say, even if it's not much. He can at least show reaction, and we've learned, or at least we've seen a lot of things that happen, like swallowing a fucking sword. So that right in itself was something that Travis decided, and not Matt. So I can agree with that point.
And the other thing was like, I feel like we didn't really learn much. We already kind of know that she's a fallen Asimar, so there's some kind of like tragic history going on there. But we didn't really learn much about it. We just got more vagueness, really. And that probably meant something to Ashley, but it didn't really mean anything to the viewers. So I didn't feel like we got much out of it.
Yeah. So the only thing that I kind of got at all, and this is probably like a huge stretch, was when he describes her like looking back at her village and seeing the terrain covered by what essentially looked like worms. And so and then she turned around and started going towards the mountain where she saw the figure. So it's like all I can see is she is now turned away from whatever that life is and has a new one with the Storm Lord. But I didn't get a lot from it. I'm like struggling. Worms that walks. Yeah. Well, and they're like the size, he said, because they looked like worms from a distance. So if you're up close, they're probably like giant purple worms. But the Stormlord like leans down and says to her, "As you walk the right path, be strong. Don't forget who you were and decide who you will become." So he's her Mufasa.
I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah, that's the whole imagery, like from the clouds, and he leans down. Just yeah. And then the next morning she goes and basically didn't even need a whisper at that point, or like a one-on-one, because she like goes and thanks him at the tree that got struck by lightning the previous night.
Yeah. I mean, sure, they didn't get to see any of the memories that, but the thanking at the tree kind of cut out the last part of the one-on-one with knowing that it was something about the Stormlord, which they probably could have guessed anyway.
Yeah, 'cause she's
Yeah,
already
and I mean
told
they
him.
saw her do that, so
Yeah.
the characters would have known that anyway.
And then like everybody also wanted to go. Oh, so that was one thing that I found my note.
Mm-hmm.
At the tree, so they've kind of used more spell components this go around than the previous campaign.
Mhm.
And Ford was interested in a lightning struck tree, and he goes and gets a twig, which is like the main component in Witch Bolt. So do we think somehow he's gonna learn a new spell because like he knows that component, or
Do we think he was thinking that far ahead? I'm
mean,
not sure.
Travis is extremely intelligent, and
He
that's like
is.
he like specifically asked for a twig, and it's
That
like
is
the
true.
one thing you need for Witch Bolt is a twig from a tree struck by lightning.
Interesting.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know. It's fun.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, good catch.
Okay, cool. 1 point for Matt. Choo-choo-choo. Oh, other thing we learned about Yasha is her flower collection.
Yes, that's something that I thought was super interesting was that she said that there was, at least to Not, that there was somebody special that she was making this for. I thought that was the biggest thing we got out of the entire thing was like there's somebody that she's still like maybe a physical person like that's not just the Stormlord that she's creating this book for
Yeah,
or whatnot.
somebody special.
Yeah, somebody back home apparently. If she wasn't lying to Not about,
And
or
now like
or
nobody's
just
rolling,
missing.
and no one's
No
rolling
one's-
insight on each other anymore.
Insight.
Inside
No,
check.
it was.
It's like the big button meme. I
Yeah.
said meme out loud. I don't like that.
Yeah,
was I
that
gonna
hasn't
say?
come up before. I mean, we know she collects flowers and she has them in her book, but we didn't know that she was intending to bring this to anybody. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a big
could
deal.
Could she have a parent back home, or somebody that like wanted to travel but didn't get the opportunity to, or is there like a grave site that she wants to like show her deceased
Mhm.
parents because it's D&D and nobody has living parents anymore? Be like, hey, these are my travels. Look where I got this flower from.
Maybe it's somebody that assisted her after she had fallen to try to get on a different path.
Well, and that's the thing. So Jess said it in the chat, like, and she can return from being a fallen Asimar to another one, right? And that is a thing in the book, at least, that you can kind of be redeemed if you're a fallen Asimar and become one of the other ones, like the Protector or the Scourge.
Mm-hmm.
So if that ever happens, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how Matt paints that picture, or what all kind of check boxes she has to reach to get to that level.
Yeah.
Um,
I find it interesting, and something I was thinking about was that, and this might be a Ashley thing, but Ashley's playing another character that has some sort of devotion to a god.
Yeah, that was, and it's weird because in talks, or like other talks that she's had outside of the game, she was like, I want to be like a badass monster character. That's why she kept saying monster, and
Yeah.
she had fun with the battle royale because she finally got to kill, and not feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
But she picked a good lord because the Stormlord's all about like the fight and fighting honorably and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think this one fits Ashley's personality better. At least in what she wanted more than Pike, because she was kind of thrown into Pike when they first started. So now that she has Yasha and can act a little bit more brashly without having retribution from an otherworldly power,
Yeah.
I think that she will enjoy being a barbarian that also has a overarching power that can sometimes take her away, aka blind spot.
Yeah. Congrats on getting renewed for another season, I guess.
Congrats on having a job.
But moving forward, so they get back on the cart, and I think this is where Taliesin does what Taliesin does and has a good one-liner where he says something to the effect of like, "Nothing being said here can't be said at full momentum," which is just choice.
That's a great line.
It is. So they hop on the carts and they head, and Matt seems to be using passive perception checks more this go around, which I don't know if there's anything you'll have on that, but it's fun to see like mechanics used because they weren't really used last campaign at all, I feel.
He definitely used them last campaign, just not quite as often. It was Keela seeing everything because she was wise as fuck, and she and Vex. But Yeah, I mean that's how it's designed to be used, and it's great. Anytime that there would be like, a time when they're not specifically looking, or would be repeatedly looking, you just use the passive, which is cool. On the downside, when you have characters
Shit
who
wisdom.
are real shit, or like a couple characters who are real shit, like they're never going to be the ones to see anything unless they're specifically looking and roll a perception check. But
yeah, Uncle Luke's right. Laura was always trying to get her passive perception used because she had like a 22 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, she had the feat to boost it, so her and Keyleth are both pretty high, but Laura's was a little higher, or Vex's.
Not for long. Maybe she'll, because she's definitely gonna have to prioritize wisdom this go around. So I'm like excited to see magic items and who gets what, and like which ones are combat oriented and which ones are stat oriented. But that's way off in the future, I'm sure. But they start getting to the Labinda Swamp, and down the way they hear some chirping, and it's described to Caleb as the sound of a crow that's being captured by a hunting cat, and then the noise right before it's killed, which is very specific. And they all kind of want to just go by, but Jester eventually climbs a tree to see what it is. And that's where we see a little struggling Kinku in the mud. And it turns out to be the best NPC ever.
Yeah, this was like the perfect setup. Like it was exactly what you kind of expected to be, like some kind of bird creature about to be eaten by giant crocodiles, and like I don't know if that's what they expected, but that's clearly what I expected. But I'm glad that they went and saved the bird. Like that would be my inclination too, because birds are great. Even though you kind of just want to be like, yeah, well, whatever, let the fucking thing die. It's not our problem. But then they save it, and then we get Kiri, and oh my god, I love her so much.
Yeah. Well, it's fun, like how everybody was split at the beginning because Jester didn't even know what it was, just saw like a humanoid bird, and she ran off. And then you have this like who it didn't run off with Jester has to wait a couple rounds because they eventually get into combat, and it's two giant crocodiles.
And I liked how this could have definitely been a circumstance in which they could have never met this NPC had they not distracted the crocodile, because it was so focused on its next meal, which was either going to be Kiri or not. So both of which are 3.5 feet and perfect snack size for a crocodile.
I think my favorite part though was at the beginning when Kiri gets KO'd in one hit, and so Travis as Ford is like, "So are we still in this for a dead bird? Can we leave? Are we doing it?"
I think that's a Ford thing too, because I don't know if that's necessarily just Travis, but I think that Travis playing a different character would be like, "Yeah, let's go save it." More self-righteous one, but.
Well, I mean, honestly, at that point, they were too far in. Like, there was no way that they were going to get out without those crocodiles chasing them. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have shared the meal and just gone on their way. You never would have met Kiri. One interesting thing that has happened is they remember that they have this D12 giant thing in game that can give them like a luck point, and they never use it. I don't think they've used it once.
I love Talison's idea, though, of the coin. A physical reminder is great for that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like remembering inspiration, remembering you have a luck point.
Yeah, the problem is, whenever you're playing a game like this, anything that requires repeated, like saying the same thing over and over again, really should be automated. And an item like this is difficult to put into a game because it's something that you would want to use every day, and like the players, like the characters themselves would remember because they have it and they're in that world, but as the player you don't remember because it's the last thing that you're concerned about when everything else that's going on. But in the day-to-day world, the characters would remember that they have this fucking crazy D12 that they should use every day, so the characters would be using it, the players don't remember to say it, and it's just like this back and forth of like, this should be automatic or something. It's just like, honestly, like poor item design, I think, in my opinion. However, it's really cool, and yeah, if they had just had like a coin or something that they like passed from person to person or rotated or whatever, it's like cool the first time a person uses it, but after a while, it's just going to get annoying and boring having a person say that they're going to do it every single day.
And moreover, we've got John Allison in the chat, saying, "Dude, I am sure that using the dodecahedron is going to backfire on them. Someone is going to magically notice that they are messing with it regularly. I
That's
think it's
possible.
way more important than an extra luck point daily." Yeah, it's gotta be, because an entire civilization is after it, and
Yeah.
they're just like waltzing along with it in a lead box.
Yeah, as of right now, we don't know of any side effects or, any sort of outside influence on it. But if that were the case, then that would make it a lot more important than it is currently.
Right,
One of
'cause
my
it
thoughts,
gives you
yeah.
like your brave moment, like, if you could change your fate, would you? And I can. I totally did that. You're welcome. But what were you gonna say, Ben? Before I embarrass myself the third time?
My thought was that like taking it out of the box to actually get the point itself every single morning, like I think is what they're intending to do. Anybody trying to scry, if they have a continual scry up for it, it's gonna finally ping. Eventually, people are gonna realize that this group has the dodecahedron if there's somebody looking for it, and if they continually get pings where this one group seems to be. So,
Do you think someone's doing that though? Like, that's pretty difficult. Like, scrying itself is not super hard. It's like a 5th level spell or whatever, but
And I thought it was confirmed it had to be a person or a place. It couldn't be a thing.
yeah. It's
That's
not
fair.
something that's like up all the time. It's a 5th level spell that gets cast on a person
That's fair.
and is only active for that short period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, in the magical world, who knows what's possible, but
yeah. I just feel like with all the like Cerberus Assembly and the other magical groups that are there, they might have some way of tracking an item.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they've got
that-
like they've had it, and they're like researching it, and who knows how many years they've had it. So I'm sure they're looking for it by whatever means they can.
Yeah, and like maybe an enhanced version of locate object. Who knows?
Oh yeah, I forgot that spell existed.
Yeah. So that's kind of my thought with it, is taking it out every day to do it risks somebody finding it. I still don't know, other than like the technical rules of having it, why they have it. It didn't have anything to do with them. Anyway, we're off topic.
they want stuff. Who
Yes.
doesn't want stuff?
I mean, that's
Everybody
fair.
wants stuff.
Stuff could get you killed, though.
And stuff for an alligator is a small bird and a goblin. So they eventually finish the fight, which is great. Yasha kills one, Ford kills one. I don't really ever know
Okay,
what to
so,
talk about in combat. So if you have mechanical things,
Yeah, there were mechanical things that you
oh yeah, the main
wanted to
thing
talk
that I
about
wanted to
was
talk about.
yeah that Not almost died, and while Not was down and unconscious, there was this whole back and forth about whether haste should still work, and I feel like in that case, when it's specific to your character, Sam was very clear that he didn't think it should still be on Not, and he was like, he seemed kind of annoyed that Matt would rule that it was, because Liam was trying to like game the system and be like, no, you still have haste.
Right.
I feel like Sam should be able to make that call because it's his character, regardless of the outcome, in which case it would have been probably poor. He still would have survived, so it didn't actually change the outcome of the fight, of whether or not lived or died. But I think Sam should have been able to make that call for his character. And personally, I mean, I agree. Haste makes you faster and more aware of your surroundings, and if you're unconscious, then you can't be that. The spell does say that it has to be a willing creature when it's cast. I would also probably rule that the creature needs to be willing in order to keep it maintained. It's a weird situation, but I think it should not have lasted when he was or she was unconscious.
Yeah, I've always played where like you go down, anything affecting you goes away. But that's also because I usually play the cleric, and so it's me that's affecting people with things, and that's why it goes away.
Yeah, most spells say that they last until like the creature needs to be conscious or whatever, but haste doesn't say, and there's nothing in the rules that we know of that says anything about haste stopping or a certain spell.
Looked at like everything I could find on the unconscious condition. Doesn't say like you can't have a spell that's been cast on you active. I don't know. It just in D&D, I like the closer people get to death because it adds trauma, and I love it.
Yeah, and Sam clearly is that same way, and yeah, it seemed like he was hoping that would happen.
Yeah,
Um,
and even though the outcome wasn't affected, it was still an interesting call, and I think it's definitely one that's going to make Matt reconsider some of the choices that he made, which I don't necessarily. I want him to be confident in what he does. So going off of what Uncle Ook said in the chat, Matt seems less and less comfortable making DM calls. I don't know if I would completely agree with that, but at the same time, rules lawyering is something that he has specifically stated he doesn't necessarily want to do. So something that he has to decide whether he's going to rules lawyer this or go with what makes in the story. I think that can just can put some pressure on somebody.
True.
So
Yeah, like the criticism. I think the criticism is getting to Matt at some level. I mean, it's got to. If you've been doing this as long as he has for 3 years in front of a ton of people, and this session, like a ton more are watching, internet trolls are gonna start weighing on people on like, you
Yeah.
didn't read the rules exactly right.
Yeah, and I mean, I personally incredibly enjoy Matt's DMing. I mean, we all do, of course, but I think of all of the DMs that I've played with and I've watched and listened to, which have been quite a fair number, I enjoy Matt's more than anybody else's. You know, not just because of the story and voice acting and everything, but yeah, I mean, maybe if Perkins had said that haste is applicable to unconscious creatures, that's fine. I mean, the rules don't say that it can't be. But I would rule that the AC bonus that you get, you would not get. So like when Not was awakened, haste would still be active on her. But when she's unconscious, she shouldn't have the AC bonus of being able to dodge more efficiently because she's unable to move.
Right.
And I think that's one of those things that you got to remember that all the rules in this book are guidelines. You don't have to follow them. So that
Well,
can
it's
be
also
like a
the whole retrospect is 2020. Like we've had time to think about this.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
Do it in
Oh
front
yeah,
of 40,000 people.
I do not criticize him for making his decision. It's just one of those things that in the future, now that we've had time to think about it and he's had time to think about it, we can be like, well, maybe going forward, this isn't. We're going to change this, and which is a completely fine thing to do in D&D.
And on the subject of spells, Laura learns that spell components are a big part of things, as King Sundu has mentioned.
Yeah, it's really funny that like Liam has been focusing, and you know, even Not, and maybe to some extent Ford now, on spell components for their spells that like where they aren't really important and aren't consumed. Yet Laura doesn't even realize that Revivify requires a consumable 300 gold diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then she's like, I have a bunch of rings. Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah. I think that actually makes things funnier. The fact that she doesn't have it.
It's like, why do I even have it prepared? Then nobody died. This got serious. Which is the drama added from death, because it could really happen.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking before, me and Ben, of like how this would be like my preferred death in any game, where it's like you're just traveling and somebody happens to die. It's not even like a big risk situation.
Yeah.
Like you're not fighting a big bad. It's literally just crocodiles.
Though I definitely prefer me for a death to happen in a big bad, because it makes it like they know that they're going into something that they could die with, and like a sudden change in pace of like the mood of a party when someone dies in like a random encounter or something to that nature can be a little abrupt sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's only my only reasoning, though. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. It's just a preference. So.
But moving on to the important part of the episode is Kiri.
Oh my god, she's 4 and she's so cute and I love her, and that's all I need to say ever.
She's adorable. She's a kinku. If you've never played a kinku, if you've never looked into the book, they in their like legacy, they were like made by this wizard, and then they got like super good at stealing things, and they try to steal something from the wizard, and so the wizard cursed them by making them like ugly, flightless, and unable to speak. And so they communicate by mimicking what they hear, and it's fantastic the way Matt has been doing it, because he's A, good at making bird sounds, little chirpy noises. B, he's a voice actor, so he's copying his friends' voices back at them, which is fantastic.
Yeah, Matt, like you play a Kenku in your campaign, and like
I absolutely hate it.
I can't even imagine. Like, I don't even ever want to play one as like an NPC as a DM. and would certainly
Yeah.
never want to play one as an actual character for anything maybe more than a one shot at most, because I can't imagine what it would actually be like not being able to communicate, and I'm awful at like trying to mimic people and sounds and stuff.
Yeah, like I've resorted to like, and we haven't played it in a while, but if I ever try to communicate something, I wouldn't know the sound to make, so I'm like over there miming like we need to break the chains off this person so they could talk to us.
Yeah. One thing.
I can't do it. I keep like trying to tell someone to get the message spell so I can like talk to them, but I don't think that would actually work because they don't have a language. It's in the book they have the Aran language, like the air elemental language, but I don't think their thoughts.
Well,
would
message
be
also
in a-
says that you have to whisper the message that you're sending to
Oh,
someone,
yeah, that's right.
and they can't actually do that.
That's true. So yeah.
They would have to. They would have to whisper something that they've heard.
And the main thing I say, there was an NPC that we all like embarrassed and then ended up accidentally killing. But his name was Landon, so that's like all my Kinku says. When he like, I'm Landon, that's all he says. It's I can't do this not talking thing in D&D.
Yeah, and it's one way to get around that I was thinking of when they introduced Kiri was just get somebody with a dictionary and just read every single word slowly. Eventually, they'll have an arsenal of words that they can just bring up one by one.
Yeah.
But
But
that's
now
a
she
little.
has the
yeah.
full story of Tusk Love to use. A 4-year-old child as all of this.
Oh, okay.
No, but what we know from her is that she got separated from her family, who are traveling west because there's fighting in the east. They're escaping the mountains. The skies went dark there, and the valley folk are fighting. And then, moreover, they're hiding in the swamp. And then the swamp folk saw them, so they had to run away. Kiri fell into the bog, and her family left her, probably with her consent. Like, don't save me, save the other
Yeah,
brothers
she
and sisters.
seemed like she told them to go.
Save the other
She might
4
have been like-
sisters.
Yeah. I forgot to look at like when they reach adulthood, but I'm sure it's similar to goblins, maybe.
Yeah, and like
maybe Arakakra even.
Dragonborn, yeah,
Maybe.
they all
Yeah, because they're like
get-
grown up by 2.
Yeah, Arakakra are grown up by 3. And then, but I played it more as like 4 or 5 because 3 seems intense.
One of my favorite things I saw on Twitter, and I'm seeing if anybody said it in chat. I think anybody has, is that this is now a physical manifestation of the metagaming pigeon.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's
So
great.
like they're in combat, and you're like, ah, bonus section.
Oh god.
But yeah, Matt plays her perfectly, and
Mhm.
she's so cute, and I want her to stay forever. And I love that Jester loves her so much. And I was kind of surprised at how much Not seems to take into her too, because some of the other characters seem to not really care that much.
Right, and like we
Yeah.
don't know anything about the Kinku race in Matt's world, like if they are hunted for any reason, if they're accepted in society. We know that they like don't have a community and like live in their separate little clutches. But like their plan right now is to like keep her with them until they can drop her off at the nearest town, which would be Barrel Bend. But then they're like, well, she's afraid of swamp folk. Are these Barrel Bend people the swamp folk she's talking about? Is she actually just another Clarota and she's gonna turn and kill them all in their sleep?
No.
And I'm gonna go kind of the mediator and be like, it doesn't seem like it. This isn't some Kenku isn't just some overly powerful being
Well, true.
Also,
like
So here's
Clarota is. I understand that like Kenku can be pretty shifty.
well, they're like
And-
they steal things. They're covetous of like shiny things.
yeah, but she's done like nothing so far, even just
Yet.
in anything that Matt said to show that.
The only insight check was
So,
very, very low.
The big difference between them is that Clarota was not in any danger. It was potentially perceived danger in not being part of his, family or whatever you want to call it anymore. But not immediate danger. Kiri was very clearly saved from death by the Mighty Nein, so she clearly should owe them, and was not up to anything malicious in that time period, and doesn't seem to have been lying to them in any sort of way, and does not seem able to have the potential, even wherewithal to kind of backstab them. She's
It's all an act.
pretty naive,
Damsel in
and
distress.
not smart.
Yeah. No, here's the way I'm seeing it. So, and I'm skipping forward because we spent a lot of time. They eventually get to Barrelbend, whatever. But so they're going to Barrelbend because the gentleman wants them to seek out Fabron Keys because their safe house has gone dark, and they're hearing a bunch of cries of like wolf howling. And there's apparently a druid that also is in the town. There's the Moss Mine Temple. There's a druid there that keeps the bog like at bay or at fine there. I couldn't tell Matt's actual words, but I'm thinking, and this is like my tin hat thing, stealing it from Destin, is that the druid has made contact with the Kinku and is trying to keep them safe. He found this house in the woods, and then he found a bunch of like bandits going to the house using it. So he killed them all, or she, whatever the druid is, or non-binary, who knows? Because Matt described, or Fabron described them all being like tied up in roots and vines, and so now it's the Kinku who are there making wolf noises to keep people away. That's my tin hat for the week. That's all I got. So
You think these Kenku are not at all related to Kiri?
Those probably not. Kiri, I think, is actually good, and but yeah, I think the whole thing, they're gonna get to the safe house and find out that it's other Kinku, and then they're gonna be like at a.
So you think that there are Kenku here as well? Because Kiri was migrating from a different area.
Yeah, yeah, I think there could be other ones there. I know Matt said they live in secluded things, and there's not really community, but like. There's multiple things I'm sure that live to the west or that live in the east that are traveling west to get safe.
Mm-hmm. I really loved, without skipping back too far, but on Kiri, I really love Matt's mimicry and how he responded to everything by just repeating things that he had heard. He was so fast at doing some of those.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite was when they were having conversations with each other, you would hear something that someone says, and Matt was specifically listening for those things and then trying to like mentally jot them down and like, okay, these are the things that I can say. And once you realize that it was a Kenku, and if you know anything, and once you figure it out, you're probably trying to do the same thing. Be like, okay, well, she can say that or she can say that, and this is how she can respond. And when Not had said, "Welcome to the Mighty Nein," I was really expecting Matt to just like respond with that, and then he didn't, and I was like, oh damn. And then like 4 minutes later he says it, and I'm like, okay, finally, there we go.
Yeah,
and that was like the most poignant part of the whole thing, and it warmed my heart so much.
That was adorable. Yeah. And like, can you fight? And she like puts her arms up.
Oh, that was cool. And that kind of goes into what I would like to see Kiri taken back almost to the Cobalt Soul and trained as a monk. I think that would be kind of cool, because she could be taken in and trained, but also still have kind of the mentorship of Bo, which would be interesting, but also be a really good growing moment for Bo.
Yeah, it didn't seem like Bo really cared about her too much. She didn't really.
Yes,
she was one of the people that was like, just give her a dagger and a horse and send her on her way.
Yeah,
but that's also where the growing moment can come in.
True.
So that's kind of my thought. And speaking of Bo, one of my favorite things that actually happened during the entire session was when they had gotten to Barrelbend. Is that the one? Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Barrel Swamp. And when they were talking to the guard, I thought it was really interesting Marisha's play style with how she was conversing with the guard. Like, obviously, Bo is confronts people and says what's on her mind, but in that circumstance, all Marisha needed to do as a player was just go, yep, 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 even in her whatever way that Bo would, and then move on. But it was like, no, Marisha's sticking to this character, and that's one thing I admire about her, is that she's sticking to who the character of Bo is, and not worrying necessarily about how the others are going to perceive her, possibly getting them in trouble with the guard just because she's playing her character. And I like that, because that's something me as a player struggles with sometimes, is trying not to upset other players with my own playing of a character.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting the word choice that she kind of used, because the guy that she talked to, is it like Crown's Guard Alexander or something? Who was basically saying that like I like it here, it's normal or like it's uneventful, and she's like, "Oh, you know, you could use a little like shake up or whatever." I didn't write down the exact words, which I feel like an idiot for not doing that. But it's like she's basically saying to this guy who knows that they're new in town that like they could use some excitement for a change. So it's like now eyes are definitely going to be on them.
Which
I
not
don't know.
something she needed to do, but she did. So
Especially
Yeah.
since all of them were like, "Yeah, I don't like law enforcement, but I'm gonna talk to all of them."
Yeah, that's what's good about Bo is like she does kind of antagonize a little bit and very clearly is not a fan of authority. But she doesn't do it in such a way that it really jeopardizes the group. Because I've played with people who are like that, and like they'll specifically try to do dumb shit, and like just because they think it will be funny or fun, and it like really kind of ruins like the game or just the party interactions, or playing with a character that's, you know, secretly evil or openly evil and does stuff that is kind of contrary to the rest of the party. But what Bo does is more just, it's mostly harmless, and that's what makes it fun.
So eventually they get to this really cool tavern that I like because it's like an old tavern that got collapsed in, and then there's a new tavern kind of built inside and up from it. And you have to climb a ladder to get into it, which is already really cool. They meet Dent Bonswallen. Don't really know.
I would like to know how all of the furniture and kegs and things like that get up inside there. Maybe they have like a secret
pulley system.
Yeah, like
I hope
either a pulley system or like
outside.
It was already in there, and they're like building up and like would put it on the next level. It doesn't make any sense, Matt. You're an idiot.
Oh, Matt.
But they find my note is a really cool tavern. So they've got Dent Bonswallen. Don't really know his name. But the information that they get real quickly is like that the part that they're in is the puddles, and then there's the mid, where like it's not as muddy and wet, and then there's the stilts, which is the higher end of town physically and like financially, I guess, because it's the better end or the nicer side. And that's literally buildings on stilts to stay out of the bog water. But Matt is kind of listing all these things out in quick succession, and then for whatever reason he drops in like, "Oh yeah, there's the Moss Mine Temple where there's a druid in there," and I'm like, "Why did Matt mention that if it's not going to be important?" So I'm like focused on this druid thing that probably has something to do with his bog. But
well, when we get to it, you can say, "I told you, everybody, there was a druid."
Well, so like let's see. So they're in the swamps. They have to go clear out a safe house. Like, what do you guys think is going to be in a safe house? Considering all we know is that there's howls and people go missing, and now we've got a guy who's confirmed seen dead bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's a really good point. It's very possible that the druid could be Mark Holmes's character because he was confirmed as a guest next week, and he'll be in town for the Stream of Many Eyes. That's a very good thought. It's very possible that could be what he's playing.
I like that. My thought was that he's gonna be like an injured person in the safe house who's gonna turn out to be a werewolf. And doesn't want to be a werewolf anymore.
Like a path of lichen sort of thing.
Yeah. Like he's about to turn and like is trying not to.
Yeah. I'm interested to see because Mark Holmes, I didn't know much about him before he was mentioned. He has a lot of role playing experience, and
he just
sorry if you wanted to.
I was saying he's had a campaign, High Rollers, on their channel that just had their 2-year like finale episode today.
That's cool.
He's great.
So I'm excited to see, and I love when they bring in new people to play the game. But I'm excited to see somebody that has played a lot of D&D really jump in and play with the Critical Role cast.
Yeah, that's really what I like. It's been a little bit difficult sometimes when they bring in brand new players, and not that they have been awful or anything, but it feels a little bit rough when you're pulled into Critical Role and have no real experience with these professional D&D players and, you know, many thousands of people watching you. but it'll be nice to get someone who knows what they're doing in there.
And has very much has experience being on stream.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna be like the perfect guest.
mhm, yeah.
But yeah, is there anything else that really happened this?
Just with the LeBron or
Fabron.
Fabron,
Yeah.
just getting him to agree to the going with them to the safe house. I won't do it for any money. How about 100 coin? Okay, now I'm listening. It's that was I thought that was a
I'll
really
never
funny
go
moment.
back there again. I'll go for that.
Yeah.
Turns out he's a super creep though.
Oh, he's super creep, which is kind of what I anticipated. And I think if he thinks he gets an opportunity to get away, he's going to try to take it.
For
Which is why when they offered him the coin, they realized they kind of made a mistake when they realized who they were talking to, giving it to him right up front, which is why they said they needed to keep him with them, because I feel like if they would have let him go back to his house or whatever, he would have been gone.
Right, and they
with
tried to
that
do that. They
100
tried to
gold.
do like half now, half later, but failed that check.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone always wants to think that you do what's best for you and not allow, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Not trust anybody,
Yeah.
but we don't know that he's not a trustworthy person. I mean,
I-
he's like clearly a drunk and maybe a little bit of a creep, but doesn't mean
Well,
he's
if he's-
like it doesn't mean he would immediately skip out. It's very possible, but they
Yeah.
haven't
there's
had enough
also-
interaction and did enough like insight checks or anything to really kind of glean that from him. But I mean, it sounds like he's kind of lived a fucked up experience recently, so
And there's also the fact that he's done business with the gentleman, so it's very possible that he's taken some of his blood and can do whatever he does with that.
sure, yeah.
But yeah, so they all sleep in I guess the only 4 rooms that this inn has, which are underground,
Yep.
which is also pretty cool. Except some of them have water seeping into them.
They rent out the entire inn.
They do
All
for like 8 gold apiece.
all 4 rooms.
Well, he said he had 4 rooms.
Yeah.
That could potentially mean that he had like that's all that was open, and there could have been more.
That's true. Oh, we also got Matt singing Brandy as this guy.
Yeah,
Oh god.
that was great.
Which is funny that they kept adding things to the deal. Like it was, we'll give you 100 coin. Okay, we'll give you 100 gold. Okay, 100 gold at a drink. Okay, 100 gold a drink and a song. That's like the real 5 gold in a party right there.
Mhm.
100 gold a drink and a song.
Yep.
New T-shirt coming Thursday.
New T-shirt. Find it everywhere. But I think that's about it. Unless anybody in the chat had they wanted to bring up. I'm looking through.
Yeah, I think those are the really most important things. Like the combat took a little while. All that really matters is the interactions with Kiri. Everything else is secondary this episode.
Well, what do we think the end game's going to be with her? Is she going to find a new family? Is she going to accidentally die alongside or being
So,
with Mighty
here's-
Nein?
Here's the weird thing. Like Jester says that she can use sending to send a message to her parents, and she might be able to do that. But those
there's no
parents would
voice.
not be able to respond or come back or anything like that. Like, what is she gonna say? Like, we found your daughter, come get her.
Yeah,
This is where we are, and then wait there indefinitely. Like, what's the plan for that?
Yeah, you're not going to get back like, no, you can keep her. We've moved on.
Yeah, I mean, they can't get anything.
Because they don't have a language.
Yeah,
Unless they respond in something that
That they've
already
before.
heard.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I don't think Matt is going to like long term want to play an NPC in his own campaign. Already dealing with 7 players.
yeah. But they
Um,
also want to protect her, so they can't just leave her. I mean, as much as Bo or somebody else might want that to happen, I don't think the rest of the party is going to go for that, or leaving her at the inn or whatever. So I
She's
feel
their
like
kind,
there's
and
got to
it's-
be some kind of end to this, like Kiri situation. There's
This
got to be
is-
some sort of good solution.
Yeah.
This is like
also
their
c-
weird alternate universe kind and Leore. Like last time they didn't take the random young NPC with them, and this time they are.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
It could also be that they stay. This new Kankudra stays with the druid. Like,
It's a
the,
possibility.
Oh, yeah,
we don't know
yeah,
anything
yeah.
about the druid. However, like,
know he's a druid.
say this
There
druid
it is.
turns out, yeah, say this druid turns out to be super cool, whatever, and like we're like, we have this Kenku, but she really shouldn't be traveling with us. Will you be able to trade her? That's a possibility. That's like, I know I said about the Cobalt Soul. Well, that I just thought of this, but it's definitely, that's a more realistic expectation, in my opinion.
Yeah, or the druid can at least better help her find her parents.
Yeah, at least train her to fight, or just give her something. Because I think having a Kenku friend can come in handy a lot. As long as you're not playing them in a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Or goes home with the guest character. Interesting, and that would make sense if Mark is playing the druid.
Yep. That was my.
Which I
That
kind
was
of want to
like
like tweet and ask him now because he like was tweeting out.
Oh,
Like,
what if he's
"Guess
playing
what I
her
am?"
parent?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, so they cut up the gator and they open one of the stomachs, which is like the funniest part, or one of the funniest part to me. Like, they just saved her and randomly gestures like, "Let's cut up the stomachs and see what's inside," and it's bird feathers.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody.
But from
assumes
what they
it's the
gather,
family.
it seems like Matt basically clues them in that it's probably her sisters, and
It's
the parents are
totally
probably
her.
still alive.
Toads.
Oh really? Okay, I didn't get that. I thought it was everybody, but
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Like,
yeah.
I want to know like if they're gonna find something in the safe house that's gonna leave them at some sort of choice that they have to make. Like, what if the thing at the safe house is like really, really bad, and they don't need to have any part of it, or like they need to stop the gentleman from doing it, but like they have to because they're under contract. I don't know.
Oh, that's a thing. Sorry, FMA 245 just said. I kind of off topic, but Kiri mimicking Ford's real accent.
Yes, I saw that on Twitter. Somebody said like, what if Ford talks in his sleep in his real voice, and like Kiri picks it up? That could be fun.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. If Kiri sticks around, she's gonna start mimicking about the dodecahedron in front of Crown's Guard. That could be interesting. She's more a liability at this point now that everybody's kind of pulling things out.
I
She
mean,
can just repeat everything, and they've mentioned what all have they mentioned? They've mentioned that they're working for the gentleman. There was one thing that they said that I was like, oh, you shouldn't say that in front of her. What was it? I can't remember now.
So here's the thing, like the Kenku, it's a humanoid creature. I mean, there are racial traits, and I don't remember what they are. It's probably just like plus dexterity or whatever. But
The Skies Kids, and they can forge things.
yeah, like she's not stupid. Like she's only 4. We don't know what her intelligence actually is, but she's not like a fucking parrot that just like says shit all the time. She's like an intelligent being who's not just gonna walk around just like saying like dodecahedron out of nowhere. Like if they tell her to be quiet, she's gonna be quiet. She's like an old child, I guess. She's not just like some dummy. Yeah.
Exactly. She's like, I would say probably 15, 16, somewhere in that range, that she can understand what's going on, and she owes these people. She owes the Mighty Nein to help them because they saved her life. So that's another thing.
I mean, I don't think she really has a way to repay them, and I don't know if she necessarily cares about that, but she's just happy to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, sure, her words are like, nowhere to go. Can I come with you guys? Just out of the,
A lot of thoughts, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about Kiri next episode.
Yeah, so we're going to end it here. I don't know. My name was Matt. I'm one of your hosts. And I'm still real proud of my mozzarella sticks that came out good. If only I wasn't lactose intolerant.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm Ben, and I'm still mostly a new host on this channel.
And I'm Herky. You can unfollow me right there at Herkyavello.
Yes. Or follow us at the other things, because I think I put them up. Oh, did I put them in the right spot? I did!
Wait, do I point up or down? I point
You point up. Other side.
No!
Yeah, mine's here. Excellent. Cool. If you like it, let us know. Critical Reroll on Twitter. We've got an email. Everybody does email. I don't know. Find us. Tell us you like it. It makes us feel good. And we'll see you guys next week. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye.